Tonight, we now know the identity of the victim and suspect in that shooting that took place this weekend.
So you ain't fixing it. I received it. Ain't no fixing this. Ain't no fixing shit. Life goes on. Hey, you be blessed. You be blessed.
Just before noon on Saturday, Coppers Cove police found 31-year-old Shazmeen Tashawn Clack, who had been shot.
All I knew was he was there with a gun. That's all I knew. I was trying to call her and she wasn't answering. I was trying to call her son. He wasn't answering.
Shazmeen Tashawn Clack was 31 years old, a mother of 5, living in Coppers Cove, Texas, a quiet military town just outside Austin. On the surface, it looked like a normal life, but behind closed doors, something was already going wrong. I'm not going to spend a long time walking you through her childhood, because honestly, the people who loved her would tell you the most important thing about her in one sentence. It was always about the kids. Her older sister said it plainly afterward, that everything Shazmeen did, she did for her children. That was the center of gravity in her life. She'd built herself a little business too, the kind that thrives online now. She did spiritual readings, tarot, cleansings. People would come to her to ask about their love lives, their futures, what was blocking them, what was coming. She had a following. She had clients. She had a rhythm. And there's a detail here that's almost too cruel to say out loud, so I'll just let it sit. This was a woman whose entire reputation was built on seeing what other people couldn't, on sensing danger before it arrived. Keep that in your back pocket. We'll come back to it. Because at some point in the last couple of years of her life, a man walked into it. And nobody, not her clients, not her followers, not even her closest people, fully understood what they were watching until it was far, far too late. His name was Alonzo Ezekiel Hunter, 27 years old, originally from Beaumont, a few hours east. When they met, he was 4 years younger than her, which doesn't sound like much on paper, but there was a gap between them that had nothing to do with the number. He'd just come home, out of prison, trying to start over, chasing a dream of being a rapper, performing under a stage name, posting his music, building a persona. And here's the part that's easy to miss, because it's how almost every one of these stories begins. At first, it looked like love. I mean, it looked good. If you'd scrolled past them on your feed in early 2024, you'd have kept scrolling and thought nothing of it. Cute couple, matching energy, baby on the way. He posted about her constantly long public declarations about how solid they were, how they were on the same page, how he wasn't going anywhere. He wrote a whole thing once, months in, about how perfectly they fit, how she didn't smoke, so he didn't smoke. She didn't drink, so he didn't drink. She didn't go to clubs, so neither did he. She didn't even go to stores. She had everything delivered. She wasn't the type to be out and about, always needing to be seen. And when you first read something like that, your brain files it under devotion. Two people choosing the same quiet life, building something, but read it a second time. She doesn't go out. She doesn't go to clubs. She has everything brought to the house. She's not the type to be seen. That's not a description of two people in sync. That's a description of a woman who has slowly stopped leaving. At the time, though, nobody flagged it. It read like romance. It read like a man so committed he'd reshaped his whole life around her. And the comments under those posts were full of people calling them goals. That's the thing about control in the beginning. It doesn't show up wearing a warning label. It shows up looking like the most attentive love you've ever seen. For a while, everything that came out of them online told the same story. A happy one. There was a baby shower. There's footage of it floating around the two of them, surrounded by gifts. The room warm and full. That specific kind of celebration where everyone's a little too loud and a little too happy, and the whole point is hope. Shazmeen was pregnant with their daughter, her 5th child, his, and in the videos he's there, present, hand on the belly, talking about the future, talking about being a dad. But if you watch closely, and people did, later, frame by frame, there's a moment in there that doesn't sit quite right. Because right there, at the baby shower, with a child not even born yet, he starts talking about the next one, about wanting more kids, already. And Shazmin pushes back, lightly, the way you do when you're surrounded by people and you don't want to make it a thing. She reminds him she's already got a house full, that she's the one home with them while he's gone working long hours. She says it half joking, I'm not a baby machine. She's smiling when she says it, but watch what he does. He doesn't smile and drop it. He keeps going. He keeps circling back to it. More kids, tying her tighter. In the moment, it plays like banter, like a couple ribbing each other at a party. In hindsight, it's a man telling you exactly what he wants, and a woman telling him no, and him refusing to hear the no. And nobody in that room knew they were watching the first visible crack. The baby came in September of 2024. A little girl. And for a stretch after that, things looked okay again. He posted pictures of his daughter, talked about being a good father. To anyone watching from the outside, it seemed like the rough patches had smoothed out, like they'd settled into something real. This is the part of the story I want you to sit with, because it's the part that always gets skipped. It was good sometimes. It really was. That's what makes these stories so hard and so dangerous. If it were bad all the time, people would leave. The reason people stay, the reason the people around them don't intervene, is because the good moments are real too. The baby photos were real. The love, in whatever broken form it took, was real. That's the trap. And underneath it, quietly, something was already turning. Because somewhere in the back half of 2024, the tone of what he was posting started to change, slowly. The way weather changes, you don't notice the exact moment it turns. You just look up one day, and the sky is a different color. The posts got shorter, colder, more suspicious. He started writing things about not trusting people, about users, about how once someone realizes you're not stupid, suddenly you're the crazy one. He posted a line, and I'm paraphrasing the spirit of it, not the words, about never trusting a woman who has a child with another man, because they'll always go back. It was vague, bitter. The kind of thing thousands of people post when a relationship is souring, and they want the world to know they're the wounded party. But the people closest to them started to notice the shift. Not understand it, just notice it. The way you notice a friend's texts getting shorter. The way you sense, without being able to prove it, that something in a house has gone quiet in a bad way. What had changed? That's the question nobody had the full answer to yet. And then January came, and it stopped being subtle. In January of 2025, the whole thing spilled out into the open, and he was the one who spilled it. Alonzo went online and started posting screenshots. Private messages between Shazmin and another man, a known rapper, someone with a following. He laid them out for everybody to see, framed as proof. Proof that she'd been unfaithful. Proof that she'd been talking to other men the entire time. Proof that he was the victim and she was the villain. Except, when people actually read the messages, and they did, in detail, because nothing online stays private once it's out, the story didn't hold together the way he wanted it to. Because Shazmin did readings for a living, cleansings, spiritual work. And this man had reached out to her the way clients reached out to her, asking about her services. The early messages are her doing her job, telling him she's busy with other clients, saying she'll get to his reading, offering him options to choose from. It was business. Now, was there flirtation in there? Sure. As the conversation went on, the man got familiar, asked when they'd meet, floated the idea of her flying out to see him. And did Shazmin entertain it more than a woman in a committed relationship maybe should have? You can argue that. People did.
So look, my baby mama do readings and stuff, right? So this type of stuff she do with her dude clients and the people she fuck. She do readings, do cleansing and stuff like that, but also she do sucking.
But here's what Alonzo conveniently left out when he posted all of this like a smoking gun: the timeline. By the point most of these messages were happening, the two of them were already coming apart, possibly already done. Some of those very messages show her telling other men she had nothing going on, that she was single, that the relationship with her child's father was over. He posted it as betrayal. The evidence read more like a breakup. But the internet doesn't do nuance, and he knew that. There was one exchange in particular he weaponized. The man had asked her something using the language of her own work, a phrase about a spiritual cleansing, about being cleaned up. It was, in context, a reference to a service she offered, a ritual, a reading. Alonzo presented it like it was code for something sexual, and the line caught. It spread. People who had no idea who either of these two were started repeating it, turning it into a joke, a meme, passing it around for laughs. And somewhere underneath all of that noise was a real woman, a mother of 5, being publicly humiliated by the father of her youngest child in front of an audience of strangers who thought the whole thing was entertainment. She hadn't done anything that warranted what was happening to her. But it didn't matter. The story was already out of her hands. So she did the thing a lot of people do when they're being dragged in public. She responded. And her responses tell you exactly where her head was, because they don't read like a guilty woman scrambling. They read like a woman who is done. She posted about how good it felt to be free. No more lying, no more being twisted into the bad guy, no more of whatever it was she'd been living inside of. She posted about still trying God. This one is hard, still trying to co-parent with him, even after everything, even while he was facing legal trouble. She wrote about how she'd been nothing but good to him, how when he came home, she was there, how when he needed a car, she handed him the keys to her backup, how she'd kept trying and trying and trying. You can feel the exhaustion in it, that specific exhaustion of a person who has given and given to someone, who knows they should walk away, and who is finally, slowly walking. She was leaving him, and that not the messages, not the rapper, not the supposed cheating that is the detail that matters most in this entire story. Because for some men, the most dangerous moment in a relationship isn't the fighting. It's the leaving. While she was posting about being free, he was posting too. And his posts were going somewhere darker. There's a difference between a man who's heartbroken and a man who's unraveling. And if you lined up everything he wrote in those final weeks, you'd see him cross from one into the other. He posted about why beautiful women are always, in his words, crazy. He posted strange, paranoid things about how, if you think you're locked in with someone, but somebody else has a spare key. He posted about people who try to trigger you, who try to make you snap, and how those are the people you should stay away from. Read on its own, it's the grim poetry of a bitter breakup. Read knowing what's coming, it's something closer to a man narrating his own descent in real time and telling you in advance that he doesn't trust himself. He even made a song. He recorded it for his baby daughter, a track where he's talking directly to her, trying to explain why he and her mother aren't together, pouring out everything he couldn't say to a 1-year-old. In it, he goes back and forth between tenderness toward the child and grievance toward her mother. He says it wasn't him. He says it was everything else. He says when she's older, he'll explain it like a man. I won't quote it, but I'll tell you the feeling of it. It's the sound of a man who cannot let go of a relationship that has already ended, dressing his obsession up as devotion to his daughter so it sounds like love instead of what it actually is. And here's the thing about all of this, the posts, the song, the public dragging. He had a choice in front of him. He had a daughter. He had the option to step back, to accept that it was over, to be a decent co-parent and build something separate and survivable. Every road was open, and he kept choosing the one that led here. How long had it been unraveling? Longer than anyone realized. By the time it broke the surface, it had already been falling for months. Which brings us to the night everything tipped over. The 31st of January 2025, Shazmeen goes live. She's out, she's dressed up, she's laughing, the kids are squared away, the baby's safe, and she has carved out one night to just be a person. After everything that had been done to her in public over the previous weeks, she'd earned a few hours of feeling like herself again. And the comments are loving it. People are hyping her up. She's joking about wanting to go to the club, joking about wanting to lose herself in the night, the way you joke when the heaviness has finally lifted for a minute. Then the warning slides in. Someone spots him. He's in the live, not on his own account on something fake, something built to lurk. He's watching her laugh, watching her enjoy a life that no longer has him in it. Her friends catch it too. The tone in that room changes. One of them more or less tells her outright, "He's here, be careful." And this is the moment that the whole internet would later argue about. Two camps, both still going at it. One camp says, she knew he was watching, and she kept going anyway, kept laughing, kept enjoying herself, maybe even leaned into it a little, knowing it would get back to him. The other camp says, so what? She was a grown, single woman. She was allowed to go out. She was allowed to be happy. She was allowed to live in front of whoever wanted to watch. The fact that he was lurking was his problem, not hers. And the honest answer is probably somewhere in the middle. And it doesn't actually matter because there is no version of she went out and had fun on a live stream that ends in what came next. There's no behavior on that screen that earns it. Whatever she did or didn't do that night, she was a woman enjoying an evening with her friends. She finished the live. She went home. She had no idea that the man watching her through a fake account had already made up his mind. What happened next happened fast, and it happened the next morning. According to what her family pieced together and shared afterward, he came to her, drove the distance from where he was staying, not a short trip, a real one, hours on the road, the kind of drive that gives a person every chance to turn around and doesn't change anything. He got there, and when she wouldn't let him in, the calls started. Her family said he called her over 100 times in the span of just a few minutes. Let that number sit, over 100 calls, faster than a person can even meaningfully dial. That's not someone trying to talk. That's a phone in the hands of someone who has stopped being reachable by reason. And before it was over, he was back on Facebook posting again. Cryptic, ugly fragments about his money and his life, and how he might as well go all the way. The posts of a man documenting himself. On the morning of the 1st of February 2025, just before noon, police in Copper's Cove got a call about a shooting on the 900 block of Tanner Drive. When officers arrived, they found Shazmin. She had been shot. They did everything they could on the scene, and she was rushed to the hospital, Advent Health Central, Texas. She didn't survive. 31 years old, a mother of 5, gone before lunchtime on an ordinary Saturday, in the home where her children lived. I'm not going to describe more than that. She deserves more dignity than detail. What I'll tell you is the part that breaks people, every time. Her children were not spared the reality of that morning. The youngest of them, his own daughter, the baby he wrote songs about, will grow up inside the gap he made. Police interviewed witnesses, identified him quickly, and found him a short time later at a hotel nearby. He was taken into custody without a fight. He was 27 years old. And as it turned out, he was already out on bond for a separate assault charge, with a court date that very week. The warning signs hadn't just been online. They'd been in the system. In the hours and days after, her family did the thing families are forced to do now. They spoke through their grief, in public, because the public was already talking. Her older sister described the desperate, sick helplessness of that morning, of calling and getting no answer, of finally reaching Shazmin's son and hearing the words no one is ever ready for. She talked about what kind of mother Shazmin was, how the kids were everything, how those children now had to start over without her. And almost immediately, a counter-story started circulating the idea that this was somehow about money, a specific sum. A few $1,000s, supposedly owed, supposedly the spark. Her family shut that down hard. Because the money framing does a quiet, evil little thing, it makes it sound rational. It makes it sound like a dispute that got out of hand. It hands the man a motive that isn't, I couldn't stand that she was leaving me. And her people weren't having it. They said plainly, this wasn't about money she'd have handed over without a second thought. This was a man who could not survive being left. A man who watched a woman move on with her life and decided that if he couldn't keep her, no one would have her at all. There's an old phrase for it, fatal attraction. The family used those words themselves, an obsession that curdled. A love story that was never really a love story, that was underneath a story about ownership. He hadn't loved her into staying. He'd tried to cage her, and when the cage opened, he made sure she'd never use the door. And here's the part that I still don't fully have words for. Even after it was done, even from inside a jail cell, facing a murder charge, with 5 children left motherless and his own daughter at the center of the wreckage, he kept posting. He kept making videos, kept promoting his music, kept narrating himself as a character in a story where he, somehow, was the one things had happened to. In his own posts, he spoke about his fate, about the time he was facing, about wanting forgiveness, about finding God, wrapping the whole thing in the language of a man who'd had a rough hand dealt to him rather than a man who'd done the dealing. There's a specific kind of horror in watching someone perform remorse while still making it about themselves. Asking the family he destroyed to one day forgive him in public, on camera, like it's content, like the worst day of their lives is a chapter in his redemption arc. He never once seemed to land on the only thought that mattered, that a woman is dead, that 5 children are grieving, that a 1-year-old will never know her mother's voice, and that there is no song, no caption, no jailhouse video that touches the bottom of that. So let me bring you back to the things I asked you to hold on to. I told you to remember that Shazmeen read fortunes for a living, that her whole reputation was built on sensing what was coming before it arrived. And the cruelest irony in this entire story is that the danger closest to her was the one she couldn't read, because it wasn't a stranger, it wasn't a shadow, it was the man sleeping beside her, the father of her child, the person she'd handed her car keys, and her trust, and her home. The threat didn't come from the dark. It came from inside the relationship. It always tells you, we just don't want it to be true. And I told you to watch that first post, the one that read like devotion. She doesn't go out. She doesn't go to clubs. She stays home. I asked you to read it twice, and by now, you understand why. Because the very same impulse that wrote those words as a love letter is the impulse that drove him hours down a highway with 100 phone calls and no intention of going home. It was never about her going out that last night. The going out was just the moment she finally looked free. If you take one thing from this one, let it be this. The most controlling love does not announce itself. It arrives as the most attentive, most devoted, most all-in affection you have ever felt. It celebrates keeping you close. It frames isolation as intimacy. It calls jealousy proof of love. And the people around it almost never see it clearly until the very end, because from the outside it looks like a man who simply can't get enough of you. The line between "he loves me so much" and "he won't let me go" is thinner than anyone wants to believe. And the most dangerous moment is almost never the fighting. It's the leaving. If you're watching this and any of it landed a little too close, if you recognized a pattern, a person, a feeling, please don't talk yourself out of it. Trust the part of you that noticed. Tell someone. Make a plan. The instinct that flinched while you were watching this is the same instinct that keeps people alive. That's where I'll leave Shazmeen's story, not on the man who took her, but on the 5 kids who are still here, who still have to grow up, who still deserve a world that pays attention. If this one stayed with you, do me a favor, hit that like button, because it genuinely helps these stories reach the people who need to hear them. Subscribe if you haven't yet, there's more coming, and I want you here for it. And drop a comment with where in the world you're watching from right now. I read them, and I'm always amazed at how far these stories travel. Take care of yourself, trust your instincts, and I'll see you in the next one.